Everyone, here's a Cryptalk. So, Bitcoin's pretty much doing exactly what I was thinking it was going to do. It's staying in the blue area. The next thing that's going to probably happen is going to end up being a little bit more scary. It's going to try and scare you out and shake off weekends. Probably, I'm thinking around the 16th, somewhere between the 16th and maybe the 24th or whatever. We can start expecting this to start going up. Now, I don't know how many people are expecting it to go up. I think a lot of people right now are expecting it to go down further, which, in my opinion, this is pretty much just redoing the exact same thing that it did a long time ago, all the way back. If we go all the way back, let me go on the weekly. Yeah, I think we're here. Hold on. I think we're here. But we could be here. We could also be here. Wherever we are, we're on one of these with the red candles. Uh, the reason why I say this is that I'm just going off of gut feeling again, like the last video I just made. It was just gut feeling. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy. Just bringing it to light. So with that said, I'm gonna go into another topic, slightly off what I'm currently talking about right now, and that is I'm still currently seeing too many game developers in the crypto space that seem to be under this impression that they can treat crypto game development the same way that they can treat AAA, regular game industry game development. And I'm going to explain why that's a bad idea. I don't even recommend doing a cryptocurrency based game right now. I personally someday will probably develop one for one of my own games, but I'm going to do it with a different mentality than the games that I'm currently making now. The games I'm currently making now, I want everybody to know who I am. I'm blah blah blah, right? I don't think that it's a good idea to go and just start up a AAA studio or something like that and make something like Gods Unchained or whatever, right? Now you get a lot of clowns right now that are saying, well, let's let's force everybody to use centralized servers and then what's one of the biggest slogans that they always like to preach when it comes to a blockchain based game. They always like to say that you own your items. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go and say right now that's fundamentally false. You don't own the item. You own the token that represents the item. That is a very different situation. And I kind of actually think that any one of these game development studios that keep preaching this "you own the item" thing kind of deserve to get sued into the ground. So hear me out. You own the token that represents the item. The token is the thing that's on the blockchain. It's a separate entity from the actual item that's actually in the game. The item that's in the game is an object, different code, different fundamental functionality, is part of the game itself, right? It's part of that whole entire ecosystem within a completely different thing. It's part of the DApp. The game only looks to see what tokens you currently own on your wallet. The game developers can do anything that they want with the item. You don't own the item, you own the token that represents the item. In other words, the game has to look at the tokens, see what tokens you actually own, and then it properly gives you the items based on what tokens you have. The game developers can nerf these items, can buff these items, can anything that they want with these items. You do not own the items in a blockchain based game. Your pets, your cards, all of it, right? They don't belong to you. They simply do not belong to you. Now, I mean, you could say, oh, well, this is maybe more nuanced or something like that. I really don't think it is. I think it's really very straightforward. And anyone right now who is making this statement that you own the items kind of deserves to be sued into the ground. I think it would actually make a lot of sense to just class action them right away. If you hate blockchain, if you don't like cryptocurrency, yeah, perfect vector of attack if you want. There it is. The best project in the cryptocurrency space are actually very low key, small, little indie developed games where you probably don't even know who the developer is. That's probably the best kinds of games to actually develop within the space. And I highly recommend going that route because, well, actually I don't recommend going that route. Actually, you know what? I'm going to straight up say this right now. I really don't think it's a good idea to even develop a blockchain based game. Like, it'll be a fun little hobby thing someday in the future, I'm sure, but I actually don't think it's a good idea. Too much risk involved. I have gone over this. I wanted to do it for a while, but once I started realizing that most of the developers are the you own your items kinds of people, I realized that that meant that that is sort of like a fundamental red flag for the entire space as a whole. Because if you have these kinds of people and they're the ones that are calling the shot, well, that's like one of the first problems. That's so easy to actually understand and figure out. And if you try to explain that to them, they won't get it. They'll sometimes get very defensive, and sometimes I've actually gotten into some very big arguments with some fairly big people about this, and they just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. I don't think the space is ready for actual game development yet. And yeah, like I wouldn't be even be the least bit surprised if this video ends up getting a lot of backlash. So while I'm at it, I might as well just take things even further. One of the other reasons why you don't want to develop a blockchain-based game is because in order for the game to follow regulations, you have to make something that's fundamentally unfun. No one's going to want to play it. What do I mean by that? Okay, so let's say you have an RPG, right? And you want to follow government regulations, and you want to use centralized servers. You want to do everything just like the good old AAA boys, right? Well, nobody's going to want to play your game because they're going to get a 1099 for items that are highly volatile in value. Think about that for a second. I could get a sword off of a slime that I killed outside the city or something, right? That sword is an iron sword and it's worth $10. Well, now I'm going to get a 1099 saying that I made $10 on this date at this exact moment, right? But the sword dumped in value after the game first came out because I played it during when the market was booming, right? Well, now that sword is only worth like 5 cents. I gotta pay. I gotta fucking pay for that difference in taxes. Nobody is going to play your game. The only kinds of games that you can build on the blockchain have to be games that are just very small, and if it's you end up catching yourself up into a catch-22. A game that actually utilizes things and follows the rules and blah 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 is a game that nobody's going to want to play because they would rather play Warframe or something like that. And they can get a billion credits and they can get a whole game. They don't have to report it to the IRS. They don't have to do anything, right? Like it's one thing or the other. So like you're sitting here, you're playing this game, and you get a card that's worth $5,000, right? But then the card dumps in value before the next tax season. Let's say you didn't even realize the damn thing was worth $5,000. Now you have an extra $5,000 to report on your taxes the following year. This is just not going to work. It can't work. It's a catch-22 situation. That's all I'm saying. All right. So in closing, on this topic, I'm going to say this right now, and it must be said. The government regulation banhammer is also a constant looming aspect of this entire discussion. Period. Okay? So I'm going to say this right now. Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, okay, said he doesn't want people even talking about Bitcoin within the next 5 years. Okay? That's the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America, right? He was brought on by Trump, who also does not like Bitcoin because it really does pose a risk to banking and it can collapse the economy and possibly affect his ability to be elected in 2020. If you're developing a AAA game in this space, you're going to be under that watchful eye. So I don't recommend getting involved at all. I don't think it's a good idea to do a blockchain-based game unless it's some really small hobby project that you just sort of develop. You don't have any big names. You're low-key, and it's something that is just like fully on chain, no servers. You don't stick your neck out. You don't tell people that you own the items because you don't. You can't, because if you do that, you're opening yourself wide open for a nice class action lawsuit. If you have any amount of um, foresight whatsoever in this topic, you will you will know enough to stop fucking saying that people own their items. And that's that. That's really all I needed to say. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'll end the video now. But yeah, that's everything.